Hi everyone, welcome to Kingdom Seekers. Today we are going to be having another episode of Charlie Christian, and the name of our lesson today our story today is called Trapped. You remember in our last lesson that Charlie and Red were really excited when their team won the game against the Tip Tops. Now the Midgets and Tip Tops were tied for first place in the league. Charlie was especially glad that he had refused to listen to Bushy and cheat. He was not willing to throw the game just so that Bushy would not be mad at him. He stood his ground. Bushy had warned Charlie that if he didn't do just what he told him and throw the game and make it some errors and help the Tip Tops to win, he was going to be in serious trouble. Well, after the game, Charlie and his friends, you remember, they decided to go swimming, and they went up to a place called Swamp Island where they didn't think anybody else would be. And they were just swimming, having such a great time, they didn't even realize how dark it was getting outside. And then they realized the sun was going way down behind the clouds, and it was getting darker and darker in the woods. So they said, we better get out now and get our clothes on and get our way back home. So they got out and they were drying off with their towels and finding all their clothes and their socks and their shoes. And, hey, wait a minute, Charlie said, there's something missing. I can't find my uniform shirt. Where did it go? And all of a sudden, all three boys thought to themselves, what's going on? Somebody took my shirt. Who could it have been? And so they said, let's go look. They heard something crackling in the woods. They thought it was Griffey. But then they heard Griffey letting out a real low growl. Something had frightened him. Something was out there in those woods. And Griffey was going to find out. So as they got a little bit further into the woods, all of a sudden, they saw somebody, and sure enough, it was Bushy and his gang. And there they went running away with Charlie's uniform shirt in their hand. Well, Preston wanted to keep running after him, but Charlie said, there's just no use. They probably got bicycles up there on the road, and we could never catch them. Well, who were those boys anyway, Red asked, because he hadn't even heard the story. He didn't even know that Bushy and his gang had threatened Charlie, and so he wanted to hear the whole story. So Charlie told him the whole bad story, and Charlie was so sad that he didn't have his shirt. Not just because of the shirt, but because on that shirt was something very special, and that was his Sunday school pen. And Charlie had earned that pen going to Sunday school every Sunday for a whole year, and he was really upset about his pen being gone. Boy, that's some story, Red said. Do you think your folks are going to believe it? Well, I surely hope so, Charlie said. But what about your shirt? Preston asked. How will you ever get it back? Well, I don't know, Charlie said, but we'll think of something. And you know what? They did think of something. They got a plan. Charlie said, I'm going to find Bushy's parents. And if Bushy won't give me my shirt back, then I'm going to tell his mom and dad to get my shirt and give it back to me. So they set out to go back home. And as soon as they got home and Charlie walked in the house, well, he had a lot of explaining to do because he didn't have on his uniform shirt. So Charlie had to tell his dad the whole story. Well, Charlie's dad, being a very wise man, knew this was a good opportunity for a lesson in what it means to really be tested as a Christian. So it was time for dinner. They all sat down at the table to have their dinner. And then after dinner, Charlie's father took out his Bible and said, I'm going to tell you a story about a man that this might help you, because you say you'd like to be a missionary, but missionaries can be really tested. You found out now that there's somebody who doesn't like missionaries, and that somebody's name is Satan. And there was a man in the Bible that Satan did not like either, and I'm going to tell you what happened to him. So he opened up the Bible to the book of Job. It's spelled J-O-B-E. J-O-B. It looks like the word job, but it's really the name of a man named Job. And Job was one of the richest men in the country. And the Bible tells us that he had a whole lot of oxen, and he had 7,000 sheep, He had 3,000 camels and 500 donkeys. He also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. And Satan came to God one day and said, let's talk about your servant Job. You know, you think he really loves you? Oh, I don't think so. I think it's just because you've given him and blessed him with so many things. But if you'll let me take all those things away, I bet he won't love you anymore. I bet he'll just curse your name. Well, God thought about his servant, and he believed in his servant Job, and he knew Job's real heart. And so he allowed Satan to touch those things. He said, okay, I'll let you test him. I'll let you take away everything that he owns. But there's one thing you can't do, Satan. You cannot take his life. And so Satan got busy, and boy, was he excited to get to prove that Job really didn't love God. So the first thing he did is he sent some enemies who stole all of Job's oxen, all of his sheep, all of his oxen, and all of his donkeys. That's the first thing they took. And they killed the keepers who were taking care of the oxen and the donkeys. And then he sent a fire and he destroyed all the sheep and the shepherds who were taking care of them. And if that wasn't enough, then he sent another band of enemies, and these enemies took all of his camels and killed all the keepers of the camels. And then the worst thing of all, Satan sent a great wind out of the wilderness, almost like a tornado, and it destroyed the house that Job's sons and daughters were in. They were having a big party, and the house fell in, and all his sons and daughters died. Now, Job had lost all those things, but he really surprised Satan because he never cursed God. He simply said, the Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And the Bible tells us that in all that happened to Job when he was being tested by Satan, he never sinned and he never spoke about God foolishly. He never cursed him or said anything bad about God. So when Charlie finished the story, Charlie said, you know, Job lost a lot more things than I've lost, and he didn't lose hope in God. That's right, Charlie said. Job was tested more than you, or I will likely ever be. But that is what Satan likes to do. He likes to test Christians. He brings troubles into their lives to get them discouraged. Missionaries often tell how Satan tests them and tries to get them discouraged in their work. And many missionaries have lost everything they own. Charlie's mind went back to his favorite Bible verse, the one he'd really been repeating to himself over and over again, really trying to memorize it and meditate on it. And so he began to say in his mind again, I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day. And not to me only, but unto all them also that love his appearing. And that's out of the book of 2 Timothy. And Charlie knew that Satan was not only tempting him, but he was testing him as well. Even if he never got his uniform shirt back, Charlie was determined he was not going to become discouraged or give up or blame God. So when family devotions were over, it was time for Charlie to go meet up with his friends, and they were going to go to find his uniform shirt. Well, Charlie first had to call the coach of the Tip Tops. He did call the coach. He got his phone number. He called him. He asked for Bushy's address. And then he changed into his other clothes, and he hurried out the door. Now, Charlie, don't be late. Charlie's mother called to him. Don't be real late now getting back home, and y'all be careful out there. So, Charlie was ready. He was ready. And he met up with his friends, with Preston and with Red. And they, of course, had to get permission from their mom and dad. And then they asked Charlie, well, Charlie, where is where does Bushy live? Did you get the information that we need? Oh, yeah, I sure did. I talked to the coach, and he lives at 210 Primrose Lane. Primrose Lane, Preston thought. Wow, that's really close to where my dad's trucking company is. Remember, he told the boys about how, when he first met Charlie, he told him about his dad and how he owned a trucking company. He says, we'll actually pass right by it on our way. So they were ready to go, and they were being brave and bold, and Griffey was leading the way. And about 10 minutes, they reached the place where the trucking company was. Sure enough, it was right there on their way. But it was nighttime. It was getting nighttime, because it was 8 o'clock. So it was kind of dark outside already. And the fence, there was a big fence around it. And it didn't look like anybody was there at all. It looked very deserted. And Red said, oh, I think it looks really creepy. Everything's so quiet and scary. And Charlie looked at the high fence. He said, well, it sure is well protected. That's probably to keep kids like us out. We better hurry, though, and get to Bushy's house, Red said, or we'll be going to get home too late. Well, it was only a few minutes to reach Primrose Lane. And just as they were turning down the street, all of a sudden, who should show up but Bushy and his gang. Hey, what are you guys doing out here? What are you doing out here near my house? We came to get my shirt, Charlie said. What shirt? You know what shirt. Well, I guess it's finders keepers, isn't it? You didn't find my shirt. You stole it, Charlie said. And then Bushy held out something in his hand, and what was it? Charlie's shirt. Oh, do you mean this shirt? Oh, well, you're never going to get this shirt back. There's only one way you're going to get this shirt back, and that's if you play the game our way next Saturday. I can't do that, Charlie said. It's wrong to cheat. Then you'll never see your uniform shirt again, Bushy said. Well, at least give me my pen back. You mean this little pen? What's so special about that? Well, it's my Sunday school pen. I earned it by going to Sunday school every Sunday for a whole year. Bushy laughed. Are you some kind of nut, he asked, going to Sunday school every Sunday? Preston interrupted. Charlie's not the only one who goes to Sunday school. We do too. And Sunday school wouldn't hurt you any either. Well, for about a moment, Bushy seemed at a loss for words. Then he just shrugged his shoulders. Oh, Sunday school's for sissies, he said. Charlie got feeling really angry then. No, Sunday school is not for sissies. It is for heroes, God's heroes. What do you mean? Bushy asked, and he was still angry. Charlie tried to explain to Bushy about the fact that there was God's team and Satan's team, and that Preston and Red and he had decided they'd be a part of God's team, and that they were really little leaguers for God. When they played baseball, they were playing to win, but they were playing to bring glory to God. He said that Sunday school was where they learned how to become members of God's team and fight against sin and things that are wrong. Huh, God's little leaguers, Bob, Bushy yelled. You guys are nothing but a bunch of punks. He turned to the other boys with him. Did you hear what they call themselves, God's little leaguers? Well, it was at that moment, before Bushy knew what was happening, that Preston grabbed the shirt right out of Bushy's hands, and they took off running as fast as they could go. Where would they run? Where could they hide? And in fast pursuit, right behind them was Bushy and his gang. And as they headed as fast as they could get away, Charlie spied the Triangle Trucking Company, and he thought, I bet Preston's got this on his mind. And sure enough, they did. They hurried over to the fence, and Preston told them, we're going to have to, there's no other way to get in. We're going to have to climb the fence, and you guys are going to have to really hurry. We got to get inside. And so they did. They ran as fast as they could. They were just about out of breath trying to get over the fence and get inside where the trucks were. And then Preston began to take them around through all the different trucks. He said, I know where there's one truck that always stays unlocked, and we can get inside there. So they found the truck, and they climbed in. Whew, they were just exhausted from all the running and getting away. And then they heard Bushy's voice, and they heard Bushy's gang, and they were saying, oh, they're in here somewhere. I know they are. They're probably in one of these trucks, and we're going to find them. Well, by then, Charlie and Preston and Red were a little bit shaking and shivering inside the truck. Charlie just knew at any moment those doors were going to fling open and they would be found, they would be discovered. But all of a sudden, in the midst of all that fear, they heard a strange voice booming in the night and in the distance. "All right, boys, what's going on? Didn't you see the sign that said no trespassing? Now get out of here before I call the police." Charlie leaned close to Preston. "Who's that?" he asked. "Oh, that's the supervisor," Preston said. "He comes to see that everything's locked up every night." Charlie heard a strange noise like a big bolt squeaking into the place. "I don't know who leaves these trucks unlocked all the time," the supervisor grumbled. Charlie felt Preston's hand on his shoulder in the darkness. "We're locked in, but don't worry. After Bushy's gone, we'll bang on the side of the truck, and the supervisor will hear us and let us out." Charlie heard the angry voice of the supervisor one more time, warning those boys, "Don't you ever come back in here." But then, everything was quiet. Bushy and his gang were gone, but Charlie and Red and Preston were all alone inside the truck. And then they heard the motor of a car starting up. "Oh, no!" Preston got, oh, no, oh, I forgot. You know what? The supervisor goes home early on Saturday nights. It's the weekend. That's his car. He's going to leave now. He will not be back until Monday morning. In fact, there's nobody here but us. Looks like we're trapped." Charlie slouched on the floor. "Maybe if we bang loud enough, somebody will hear us," Red suggested. Preston shook his head. "I forgot to tell you that nobody even lives within 2 blocks of this place. There's nothing here but just an old cemetery, and I don't think we'll get much help from there." "A cemetery?" Red and Charlie whispered together. Charlie felt a strange chill creep along his back. "Why don't we just pray?" Preston said. Charlie could have pinched himself. "Why didn't I think of that?" The boys bowed their head, and each one of them prayed and asked God to help them. They had just finished praying, and Charlie was thinking again about that cemetery being so close by, when all of a sudden he heard a sound that made the hair stand up on the back of his neck. What was that? What was that, guys? I heard something. We'll come back next week, boys, and we will find out. Now, I want to ask you if Satan has ever tempted or tested you. And if so, what did you do? Did you get discouraged? Or did you do like Job and praise the Lord? God wants to use you to be his witness, but you must be prepared for the attacks that Satan will make on you. As you trust the Lord, he will strengthen your faith and give you more courage to live right for him. May the Lord bless you and keep you until the next time.